Hello, hi. This is Ash, Project Equanimity. I'd just like to say a massive thank you for all the support I'm getting from people all around the world, from friends in Australia, from friends in Bristol, in England, in bloody everywhere. It's great. And people I don't even know are sending me messages, just full of love and support and encouragement, and people already wanting to, be a part of a community and start their own things and their own channels and their own experiences of things that I've been talking about, which is amazing. But I've been launched for like 5 days or something. It's awesome. What I want to talk about today is an experience I had over the weekend, which was pretty mental, and it kind of knocked me out for a couple of days. Didn't think it would at the time, but yeah. So I was walking home on Friday night. I'd been with my mate, just having a night out, and we were walking through the park where I live, and this woman came up and asked me if she could have a cigarette, and I was like, yeah, of course, here you go, just roll them, have this. And we got chatting, and then I noticed her leg. You couldn't really miss it, but on her leg she had, I literally can't get my leg up this high, but she had on her, in the middle of her shin, a gouge that was half the size of a tennis ball. It looked like she'd been bit by a shark or something. It was open. It wasn't bleeding or gushing blood or anything. It had healed, but it was infected because it was just open to the elements. Me and my friend were like, mate, what's going on with your leg, dude? You need that looked at, like, right now. And she was like, oh, it's fine, I'm okay. I'm just gonna go to my mate's and crash on his couch or something. And we're like, no, dude, you're not. You need to go to the hospital, like, now. No, I'm okay. Anyway, my friend went home and I stayed and was talking to this woman. And I could see that she was really, really reluctant to get this looked at. So I knew there was something deeper, and I chatted further, and it turns out there is a warrant out for her arrest. So she was scared of going to hospital because she was scared of getting arrested. Totally get it, that's fine. But I insisted that she needs it looked at. So I asked if I could call her an ambulance, and she said yes. You could see she was in pain and she was fighting this of her own ego and her own fear, but she actually really did want to get looked at. So I went through this whole bloody rigmarole with the NHS about, this whole assessment, how much of an emergency it is, blah, blah, blah. After like 40 minutes on the phone, she goes, oh, the ambulance is probably going to be about 2 hours. And I was like, would it help, mate? I'm asking you personally, not your job, if I just hung up and called 999, the emergency service, and just get them to come. And she was like, well, they'll probably go through an assessment and then they'll refer you back to me, which is non-emergency. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to put her in a taxi and go. I didn't have any money for a taxi, so I hung up the phone and went, come on, mate, let's just go. I'll drive you to the hospital. So we drove to A&E, which was pretty quiet for a Friday night, to be fair, but it still took 4 hours to get seen to or something. And during that time, we chatted a lot and got to know each other. She was such a sweetheart. She is drug dependent, heroin, has been for about 12 years. The wound on her leg was from domestic violence. Her ex-partner threw a bike at her and it ripped out half of her leg. Warrant out for her arrest because she breached her bail condition, or whatever you call it, because she was seen associated with her ex-partner. So that's the only reason she had a warrant out for arrest. Anyway, we finally got treated and seen to, and she went into the treatment room, and the nurse, I saw a policeman down the hall, and so did she, and she clocked it, and she saw me. Anyway, nurse comes in, pulls the curtain across, and the nurse was acting a bit weird, to be fair. But we went through everything and what she needed doing and all that. And the girl I was with said, look, I was in hospital 2 weeks ago and I just left. But the hospital put a call out with my ex-partner's parole officer saying I really need to come back. It's really important, so perhaps something has come back in my bloods or something. And the nurse goes off. Meanwhile, the girl I'm with just literally turns. Full on fear, eyes go wide, she's tense, and then she just bolts it out the door. And I'm like, okay. Nurse comes back, and she's like, oh, she's scarpered. And I'm like, yeah, she's worried about the police, mate. Like, I can probably go and find her and probably convince her to come back, but I need to know if the police are involved, because I'm not going to lie to her. And the nurse was like, oh, well, there's police around. And it was like, okay, so yes, they are. Like, as soon as you treat her, they're going to arrest her, aren't they? And the nurse was just like, not answering. It's very obvious. I was like, okay. Then in walks the girl again. She comes back and she's like this, like, I'm like, you alright, mate? She goes, I couldn't leave you. I'm like, me? What are you on about? You're the one that needs seeing to. She's like, I know, but I was just panicked and you've just helped me and I couldn't leave you. I just felt so bad, so I came back. And I'm like, well done, mate, for coming back. This is not about me. This is about you getting your leg seen to, so it doesn't fall off, okay? I've looked out the curtain. I can't see any police. I don't know if they're here or what, but let's just get your leg seen to. That is the main thing. She's talking about prison and all this and how it'd be good for her to go to get clean off heroin, and I'm just trying to calm her down and relax her and, you know, make her feel like what is priority is her leg. Think about everything else afterwards. And she's like, yeah, I know. Anyway, the nurse goes off again and the girl is really calm. And like, she was such a sweetheart. We were like getting on like best mates, just laughing and joking and taking the piss out of ourselves. It was just a really nice bonding experience. All of a sudden, she goes like this again, eyes wide, frozen, and she starts shouting and swearing, and I think she felt paranoid that I had lured her in to this like secret sting operation or something, and she literally just bolted, and she did not come back this time. Luckily, the nurse, in this interim, the nurse had come back and said, yeah, your bloods have come back and you've got MSRA, which is like life-threatening, okay? So she thankfully gave her this medication. If she'd given it to me, she couldn't have done, because I can't take medication for someone else. So luckily she got the medication. Scarpered, nurse comes back, and then she, you know, with the gauze and the things to clean the wound. So I'm like, look, I'll take them. She's not coming back this time. She gives me the stuff, I go outside, and I find her like hiding and like tentatively looking for me, still in a state of fear, absolute anxiety, like stock still, like, what the fuck's going on? And she said, I overheard the policeman say my name on the radio, so they were gonna arrest me. And I'm like, I don't know, mate, I honestly don't know. I will admit that the nurse seemed to be acting a bit weird, like she had to come in and treat you and then maybe the police were going to take over. But I don't know that, but I am not a part of this. You met me in the park earlier tonight. I was just on my way home and I brought you here. Trust me, please. I'm not a part of this. Let's go. Like, I don't want you to get arrested, so let's go. So I took her home and we chatted some more and I dropped her off. And during these, you know, I got back at like 4 a.m. or something, and everything was fine. The whole night I just wanted her to be okay, to get her leg seen to, and when she was paranoid and freaking out about the police, I just wanted her to be calm and relaxed. and get her leg seen to, and that's it. We'll worry about everything else later. And I dropped her off, so she's all right. She's got a medication. She's got stuff to clean her wound and gauze to cover it. She didn't get arrested. Kind of all is good, right? But I came home and I just couldn't sleep, so I just sat at my window and I just burst into tears. I haven't cried like that in years. It's just like, "Bruh!" And then the next day, that kind of pain turned to anger at what this girl has been through in her life. We spoke at length. I think I've said before in other videos, people open up to me. I don't know why. I don't say or do anything to suggest that. Maybe I do unconsciously, I don't know. But she basically told me her life story. She was raped at 7 years old by her dad. She was sent to a foster parent who raped her some more. In her early teens, she was kidnapped by 6 people and raped for 30 hours straight. She had a stillborn child. The next time she had a daughter who was taken away from her at 6 days old because of possible domestic violence around her. So she's not allowed to see her daughter, hasn't seen her since, 6 days old. She's had a little boy recently who's also been taken away from her. She's a heroin addict. She's diagnosed as bipolar. She's got a million health conditions. The heroin isn't even working for her anymore. She knows she has to come off it. She knows she's masking this pain and escaping from it with drug use. And what it brought to my attention is how fucked up the health system is here. Okay, so we have centres for domestic violence. We have centres for trauma and family abuse and drug addiction. But they don't work. The NHS doesn't work. How this nurse treated her. She looked at her like a street urchin. Oh, here's another one. I'll just do my job and then send you off. And it's like, okay, if the policeman had have arrested her, how is that going to help a person with these issues who has been through this stuff in her life? How is that going to help her at all? If you go to a clinic as a heroin addict and you get methadone, drug replacement, how does giving a drug addict drugs work? It just continues the problem. It doesn't stop it. It doesn't change anything. It increases it. It actually encourages her to be a drug addict. And it just highlighted to me how much trauma affects a person. If you'd been raped by the person you look up to, who is supposed to be your carer and guardian and teach you the ways of the world, who fucking violates you sexually and rapes you at 7 years old, wouldn't you end up being like her, having zero self-worth, being moved to someone else who abuses you, someone else who you're meant to trust, who's meant to be a carer, a guardian, by the state, by the government, and he rapes you some more? Who would you trust? How much self-worth would you have? How much value of yourself would you have? This has completely altered her entire life from 7 years old. She was innocent. She did nothing. Kidnapped by a load of people and raped. I went to the water cooler and went, "Do you want some water, mate?" And she goes, no, I can't drink water. I was like, "What are you on about? You're human." She goes, "No, I know, I'm sorry, it's weird, but some people tried to drown me when I was younger and I swallowed the bath water and I just can't drink water now. It just freaks me out. It sends me into a panic attack." And I'm just like, oh my God. Everything I saw, this was such a beautiful soul. Remember, she came back for me because she had this integrity and this compassion and empathy for another human who had just helped her. I didn't do anything. All I did is take her to the hospital. But she had so much compassion for me, a complete stranger. Yet she's been through all of this abuse. And it just highlighted to me how much trauma affects everything. Can you blame this person for going into prostitution? What area of work would you go into? What industry? What lifestyle would you have if you had zero self-worth? If you've been used and abused by men your entire life? What form of empowerment tool would you naturally go to A, survive and make money, and B, be emotionally independent? Prostitution. Would you not develop perhaps a mental illness from all the trauma you've endured, like bipolar? I'm going to do a whole video on bipolar, by the way, and what it actually is. But for now, would you not develop depression, extreme anxiety, not being able to sleep? From these mental afflictions, would you not develop physical afflictions? When you're depressed, how does your body react? You can't sleep, or you sleep too much. You can't eat, or you eat too much. Sometimes you can't even lift your arm up because there's just no point. Your body is just shut down. That's a mental thing becoming a physical thing, yeah? Would you not go create a drug dependency like heroin to escape from the pain? A total addiction to escape from the pain that you've endured, that you didn't ask for, that you did not deserve, and no one seems to be helping you. Who do you turn to for help like this? If you go to the NHS, they're going to give you more drugs. I looked up, I tried to find a trauma centre for her and found one which only accepts 3-year-olds to 25-year-olds. This lady was 31. Where does she go? What about the adults? Nothing will work unless you go back and heal the original trauma, because that time she was completely violated at 7 years old, changed the course of her entire life. This girl is beautiful, stunning, inside and out, such kind nature, so chatty and funny. How can you even have a sense of humour after this? She was beautiful. And all this shit that people have done to her has changed her entire life. She knows it and she wants to break free. But how does she do that without support? You have to want to do that. She wants to do it. How? Where does she go to for help? Halfway house with other drug addicts who encourage each other? Who, if one relapses, they all relapse? Don't know if you're a smoker and you've tried to quit smoking, and then you're around a bunch of other smokers. How easy is it? How hard is it? That's just cigarettes. This is heroin. Where do you go? And to be honest, I'm not even educated on trauma centres and what they do. I presume it's just probably just talk therapy, CBT, just someone there listening to your story and being support, probably in a circle, maybe in like, a support group like Alcoholics Anonymous, or I myself have been to bipolar groups where you sit in circles and just share your stories, or you go off in smaller groups and share your stories, so it's a bit more intimate. There's no active therapy. This is just people listening. This is you just going, I've been through this and I need to tell someone because no one understands. I'm completely isolated. How fucking isolated do you think she is? She's been raped all her life. She's been abusing herself the rest of it. But there is this spark in her, this light that is pure beauty, pure love. That is the human spirit. That is, I do not deserve this, but I know that I am not respecting myself. I want to find that self-worth because I know I deserve it. But she can't, because of the way our society is structured to deal with these people, not help them. The people that do help are charities. These are the people that understand how to actually help people. But the government doesn't make money from charities. Charities cost money. That's why all charities are underfunded and cut and cut and cut every year. That gets lower and lower and lower, and they're like literally screaming in your face going, we cannot survive with any less than this. But guess what? Drugs make money. This is not an anti-drugs video, and this is not an anti-government video. This is just something to make you think next time you see a homeless person or a heroin addict or a prostitute. Think about how they got there, mate. I was chatting to a friend the other week about this, and his opinion is, oh, they choose to be there. That's their choice. Was it their choice to be raped at 7 years old? Was it their choice to be raped again? Was it their choice to be kidnapped and gang raped? Was it their choice for their son to die? Was it their choice for their daughter to be taken away from them after 6 days old? And then their son? Was it their choice for their abusive partner to throw a bike at them and rip half the leg off? I see your point. It is their choice to stay in these abusive relationships, but can you see how much trauma impacts a person's mentality, their entire personality, their entire belief system to get into these situations, into these relationships, into these lines of work, into these drugs, into homelessness? Guess what started it all? Trauma. You go back and you heal the trauma of the first instance, and you change your belief about every other trauma. If you can go back into this brutally painful, horrible place and time in your life and change it, you don't with... I've done EMDR therapy, which is specifically for trauma. Your memories, you don't lose your memories. You don't just suddenly go, oh cool, that horrible shit didn't happen to me. You become evolved because it happened to you. The memories don't change. You change your relationship to the memories. You change how you view them. Therefore, you change how you view yourself. Therefore, all these repeated thought patterns over the years about yourself and your self-worth that have become a belief, you go back and you change that, and you start to change it positively. So you have repeated positive thoughts about yourself. Therefore, repeated positive beliefs, which physically creates a new neural pathway in your brain, a new possibilities, a new life, a completely new way of being. That's what trauma therapy can do for you. But you have to recognize it, you have to want to do it, you have to go back and do the hard work, and it is hard work. I cannot even imagine what this girl has been through. I don't even know how she's still alive. I wouldn't have been, would you? So, yeah, I just wanted to tell you this story because it was quite emotional for me to go through that. It was absolutely fine all Friday night because I was in a state of being present for someone else. And the second I stepped out of that, I just crumbled and I just needed to let this emotion out. And then the next day I needed to just be by myself, not speak to anyone, just to process this, process the anger that it brought on how we treat people and the lack of support for these people, and try and figure out what to do about it. You know, there's better people than me that I'm sure have tried and are trying and have succeeded in many ways with these charities and things, but and this is just one individual. There are millions of people in this country like this, billions of people around the world like this, and we have to change how we understand these problems, these issues on society that drain our resources, that put strain on our healthcare system, and how we are actually encouraging that and fueling the machine, and it's bullshit. These are people, these are individuals like you or me, and they didn't choose what happened to them. And only we can choose to change how we view it and how we view them and what we do about it. That is our choice. So all I wanted to do is share this story to maybe just make you think. I'm not here to educate people or force my opinions down people's throats, but just what would you do in that situation? What would you do if you were me? What would you do if you were her? What would you do if you were the nurse? Feel free to make some comments below. And also, my aim is, because I personally know that EMDR therapy works for trauma, my aim is to try and find that for free, because it costs a lot. It's like 100 quid a pop. And all in all, over £1,000 for a treatment. So that's my aim. I don't know where I'm going with it or how, but I can't say her name obviously, but I would like to go and see this girl again. I know where she lives. She's very local to me, and I'm worried about her leg and her and where she's living and who she's living with. But she was also mentioning that she was going to hand herself into the police over the weekend. We'll see whether she did that or not, but yeah, she's such a beautiful person, and I would like to help her in some way. If anyone has any thoughts on this or ways in which to help, please comment below, send me an email, send me a message. Yeah. Thanks for listening. If you liked it, hit like. If you want to share it, hit share. If you want to subscribe, hit subscribe. Namaste.